Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. Even though I've been a self-professed Halloween addict my entire life, I only recently got around to seeing Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. What? No, I'm not crazy. That is the case, sadly. I've been a fan of these movies since I was 13, but I did not see Halloween 3 until I think I was 34, 35 a few years ago. It's not as if I was strictly against seeing it. I wasn't like, oh, it's not got Michael Myers in it, so I'm not interested. No, I was always open to the idea of watching this film. I just didn't get around to it for whatever reason, and next thing I knew, 20 years had passed. I will say on the flip side, the year I saw it, which would have been 2014, 2015, it was a complete dead zone around about that time in terms of getting new Halloween content. The Rob Zombie films had long gone by that point, and yet we weren't really into the realm of Halloween 2018, if you like. I don't think that had been announced at all. So I think it was a good time for me to have a new Halloween film of some kind to fall back on and discover for the first time, if you look at it that way. Now, I'm not going to give too much away about the plot in this review, because this isn't just a horror film, it's a horror mystery film. And you should really go into it if you've not seen it before, not knowing a lot about it. Part of the fun of this film is the discovery. So I'll give you the first 10 minutes, that's it. So there's a doctor called Daniel Chalice, and one night there's this sort of lunatic guy who's brought into the ER who's raving about the end of the world and stuff like that. And Chalice doesn't think much of it, but later that night an assassin comes in, takes this guy out in his hospital bed, and then he goes into the hospital car park, douses himself in petrol before anybody can make a citizen's arrest, and he basically blows himself up. So straight away you've got a mystery. What is going on here? Why would this guy come and take this guy out and then kill himself in such a nasty way? Chalice is suitably intrigued. Even though he's not a detective, he decides to look into it, and helping him will be Ellie, the daughter of the guy who got assassinated. So got a good setup for a story already. It is a crazy story. It moves into things involving magic and warlocks and killer masks and androids. It's really bizarre, but don't let that put you off. It's not as silly as it sounds. You know, it's a deadly serious film, and at no point was anything introduced into the plot where I thought, oh, come on, this is just getting ridiculous now. It all makes sense within the context of the movie when you watch it. Now, I'm going to start with the positives today, because if you've never seen this film before and you don't make it to the end of this review, I would like to see you sort of leave with some positivity about this movie. It does need some love, I think. So straight away, I'll start with the performance of the lead man, Tom Atkins, as Daniel Chalice. He's absolutely fantastic in this film, and a shining example of why your lead in a film does not have to be a 25-year-old underwear model. I mean, I think Tom Atkins must have been over 50 when he did this film, and yet he is cool as hell. I was right behind him from minute one. I mean, he's got his flaws. It's implied that he ruined his marriage somehow. It's implied that he might be quite a heavy drinker, but despite that, it's just a brilliant, brilliant role to watch. Easily as good as anything in the entire Halloween series in terms of leads. Even as good as Laurie Strode in Halloween 1. Absolutely brilliant. Loved Atkins in The Fog. Loved him in Maniac Cop. He's great here, and he's a great backbone for this film. And the film's scary. You know, what's one of the questions you ask straight away about anyone who's seen any horror film? Is it scary? You want to know that, and this one is. Right from the first moment in the prologue, where we see this guy being chased by these assailants down this highway, it's a scary film, and it's got lots of scenes like that, chase scenes in the dark. You constantly don't know what's going on or what the threat necessarily is, because there's that sense of mystery. So it is really, there's a lot of foreboding and a good unsettling atmosphere all the way throughout. I've definitely seen Michael Myers films less scary than this one. There's good kills in the film. They've definitely kept up with the level of violence that was in Halloween 2, and some really creative ones in this film. You know, some really bizarre deaths. They've deliberately tried to make this film as far away from the sort of slasher model of Halloween 1 and 2 as possible. And the only connection is the fact that they are Halloween themed related, but everything else is just, they've just tried to go completely the other direction with it. So there's no carving knives in this film. Instead, there's all kinds of weird and wacky ways that the characters die, and some of it's quite mean-spirited actually, and quite cruel, the way some of these people are taken out, and there's nothing they can do about it. Sometimes the deaths, you just don't see them coming at all. But if you're a gorehound, you should enjoy this film totally. I've heard it said that the villain is great, but I'm more on the fence with that one. Conal Coffran, his name is. He's definitely a nastier villain than Michael Myers in terms of what he wants to do, but I do think he's a little bit pantomimey for my taste. We don't really find out that much about his character, so I'll kind of be a bit neutral on that one. But on the whole, scary story, great lead, good story. You know, it's a top-class film, really. I do have a couple of negatives, but if you've not seen the film before, by all means, just leave at this point and go away thinking it's perfect. You know, so you watch it. No, I'm just kidding. I will tell you what I personally don't like about it. One thing, there's some violence against kids, which is a no-no for me. I don't mind if the violence on kids in a film is quite tame, you know, like the kid who gets shot in Once Upon a Time in America, something like that. But the kill that's done on a kid in this film is absolutely just horrid. I mean, you don't actually see all the gore actually on the screen, to be fair, but just the implication of knowing what is happening to this poor lad is really bad. So yeah, that's a slight black mark for me, though maybe it doesn't bother you. The three things I don't like in movies generally, whether it's a horror film or not: violence against kids, attacks on humans by spiders. Just, I'm looking at you, Arachnophobia. You'll never see me review that film. I just don't like that stuff. And attacks on genitalia, male or female. I'm looking at you, Mountain of the Cannibal God, when it comes to attacks on male genitalia. And I'm looking at you, Terrifier, when it comes to attacks on female genitalia. So those three things, not a big fan of them. And Halloween 3 commits the sin of the first one, but it won't bother everybody. So, and the other negative I would have on the film is that the finale isn't quite as satisfying as I think it should be. The final shot in the film, the last couple of minutes are absolutely brilliant. There's this really iconic ending to this film, which is just perfect. But I'm talking about just before that, the sort of 15 minutes or so before you get to that final shot. You don't get the big cheer moments that I think this film should have had. You know, there is a point where the tables get turned against this evil entity, and you know, Daniel Chalice gets to really make his mark and get in there and get stuck into the villains. And I should be punching the air at that point, because these guys have been nasty as hell throughout the movie. But I just didn't feel that. I kind of just like, oh yeah, this is okay, I suppose. Good on you for getting back at them. So I feel like I should have felt a little bit more. I think that there's a few confusing aspects, I think, about the final 15 minutes or so, and you'll see what I mean when you get there. But on the whole, though, this is a really good movie. If you've not seen it, but you enjoy the Halloween films, the other Halloween films, you should just get it out of the way, get it done once. If you don't like it, fine, just stick to Michael Myers. But you might, like me, discover that actually you're perfectly fine with this being in with the whole Halloween family. I watch it every time I'm doing a Halloween marathon now. You know, it's like Tom Hagen in The Godfather. It might not be a blood relative, but he's part of the family anyway, so just embrace him. Right, let's get to the bag of terror. Let's see what we've got in here today. Let's find out what the score is. We've got 1, 2, 3.5 bloody axes for Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. That's 3.5 out of 5. That's pretty good score. Slightly better than average movie on the whole, which means I say you should go and watch it. Just for comparison, I gave 5 bloody axes for the masterpiece that is Halloween 1 and 4 bloody axes for Halloween 2. So this is the weakest of the 3 so far, but it's still a good film. It is in very esteemed company, just remember that. Now, I do have a pin for the horror locations board. This film is loosely set in Northern California, so I will be adding that in a separate clip just after this one. But apart from that, I've just about finished here, so I will be back soon for Halloween 4, and see you again next time. Bye-bye.